In the recent webinar with Vivian, her excellent research gave us a framework, the patterns, the reasons, the cultural shifts, and the universal scripts that all of these kids are using with estrangement. And many of us felt something rare on this journey. We really felt seen and heard and validated. Our anger had a forum. Our anger is real. Our anger deserves to be acknowledged. And a hurting and angry army of parents and grandparents heard a new voice. And then we heard the passion of our friend Josh, who always informs us wisely about the complexities of estrangement. Those who know me know I come from a little bit different angle. So I'm going to start with one of my favorite stories, and that is the myth of Sisyphus. So Sisyphus was punished by the gods. He was condemned to push a massive boulder up a mountain, only to watch the gods roll it back down, and he had to start all over again. And that's what Sisyphus had to do for all eternity. And I thought, wow, we can relate to this, because our ruminating thoughts, replaying old hurts and injustices, were pushing that same boulder of grief and anger and despair over and over again. But for me personally, I realized that I no longer had the strength to fall down that mountain and then crawl my way back up again. I needed to go in a different direction, because like Sisyphus, we are not condemned. We still have the freedom of who we choose to be, what we choose to think, how we choose to feel, and what we choose to do in the midst of circumstances that at this moment are out of our control. I thought about something else. We weathered something similar during COVID. Some of us denied it. Some collapsed in fear. Most of us hated it, but there was no escaping it, no pretending it wasn't happening. And yet within those circumstances, some were able to turn a corner, designing custom masks, reinventing careers on Zoom, organizing community efforts. COVID was going nowhere. And the only choice was, who am I going to choose to be in the midst of all of this? So I'll warn you in advance, I've been on a philosophy kick lately, and I just read Camus, who gave us the myth of Sisyphus. He also wrote a book of short stories called Exile. And wow, that word resonated with me. Exiled. Isn't that like no contact, blocked and cut off? Exiled from adult children and grandchildren, yearning for home, that place of closeness, belonging, and comfort. And yet, at the same time, we know that even if we do want to go home, it will never be the same again. So once again, in this reality of our existence, we have to choose how we will live. And the last story I read was of Kafka, who wrote in his novel, The Trial, you're not going to believe this, about a man named Kay who wakes up one morning to find two policemen sitting in his room. And they tell him he's under arrest. And Kay asks, for what? That's not our job to know or to tell you, they reply. Our only job is to arrest you. But even though you're under arrest, you can go to work and go on with your life, and we will let you know when your trial begins. So Kay had to live in that surreal state, not knowing what he's been accused of, what he's waiting for, or when it will end. And once again, just like estrangement, many of us have been accused, not told of what or when our trial will begin. And Kay lives in this state and must comply with this absurd reality that's been thrust on him. And now I have a new favorite word. It's absurdity. How to live within these absurd circumstances. How can we make sense of what makes no sense? We may rely on resilience, that ability to bounce back. But my commitment is equipping us with something stronger. Prosilience. Have you heard of that word? Prosilience means preparing in advance, cultivating the mindset, tools, language, and skills necessary to navigate whatever absurdity comes along in the wisest way possible. And prosilience empowers us to keep standing in the face of the unexpected and the absurd. So today I'm going to show you a revised, updated, elevated Parent and Grandparents' Bill of Rights, because it's not only about what we want and deserve, it's also about wisely preparing ourselves to meet the absurdity with dignity, competency, and grace. I know that's what I choose to model. Let's be honest, adult children worldwide have banded together. They share thoughts and scripts and strategies and have a collective voice. It's like a cult. I believe a Bill of Rights offers us a way to do the same. I know sometimes shame and embarrassment have kept many of us silent and isolated. And I've also prepared a draft petition, a grandparent and parent declaration, because I believe, and I'm sure you can agree with me, that our world is fractured. And the only way, I believe, to restore the very foundation of a fractured world is with strong families. It has to start in the home. So it's important to me as we go along, if you write your thoughts or insights in the chat box, some of these ideas might be outside your scope of what your opinions and perspectives have been. So I appreciate that you're going to open your arms to hear them and present this new elevated Bill of Rights that aims to cover a broad spectrum of experiences and needs faced by estranged parents and grandparents. And you know, this is my draft. Maybe you can think of something that's not in it that's important to you. So I'd like you to write down those thoughts too. So first, I'd like to tell you what motivated me to come up with this Bill of Rights. As many of you might have read, my previous life was in social media, and it was joyful to teach the not too tech savvy how to connect with friends and see pictures of families and make Facebook pages. So you can imagine my despair and dismay when I see what social media has become. Social media now offers a license for cruelty. I'm going to show you a couple of posts because I follow all of these people, posted with no disclaimers. Were you physically or emotionally abused as a child? Were you sexually molested? Did you have traumatic events in your childhood? Social media celebrates the fracturing of families. social media labelizes and generalizes a truth. This is the truth. And I do a whole webinar on labeling and what we can do instead. For example, I want you to know that there are 15 characteristics to be diagnosed as a narcissist. And it's a term that's meant to be used in clinical settings, in therapeutic settings. And somehow these words have come into everyday language. And people think they know what they're using them for and what they mean. But here's what pushed me over the edge and was my true motivation. When I saw this, also posted with no disclaimer, were you physically or emotionally abused? Were you sexually molested? Did you have traumatic? So many of the people that I deal with in my coaching and in my groups deal with issues of guilt. And I want to tell you something about guilt. Some of us carry guilt that's real. Maybe we didn't know better, or we acted out of our own pain, or we yelled, or we withdrew, or we reacted, or we failed to protect. I say it in my deep dive myself. That guilt isn't imagined. I earned it. But there are two kinds of guilt. You can choose which way to go. There's destructive guilt that's going to keep me stuck, or there's redemptive guilt that becomes fuel for insight, learning, growth, and change. And you know, feeling remorse is part of being a good person. How many times have we listened to the news and the judge said he showed no remorse? Feeling remorse is part of being a good person. That we need to keep in mind, I will not teach, win, reason, convince, or prove wrong those who believe there's only their narrative and their narrative is right. I need a different strategy. So I just read this from Maya Angelou. She said, I'm always amazed when people walk up to me and say, I'm a Christian. And I think, already? You've got it? As for me, I'm still working at it, which means I continually try to be as kind and fair and compassionate and respectful to every human being. I'm still becoming, and so are we. So as I go through this Bill of Rights, this is my direction. Please consider, can I choose to embrace the very qualities I wish my children would embody? So why do we need a Bill of Rights? First, I believe it validates our feelings. It validates our emotions and acknowledges they're a natural response to pain. This Bill of Rights will encourage and promote personal growth, acknowledge our need for community, and recognize a need for compassion and peace. So why have I paired a right with a responsibility? I believe our rights must be paired with responsibilities. A right is a claim. In families, we can't force others to meet our need. Responsibility means demonstrating consistent behavior that invites trust. Responsibility models adulthood. I do not believe that adulthood has to do with a number, with an age. To me, adulthood means I can consider perspectives. I can control my emotions. I can problem solve. I can connect. Rights alone can sound like an ultimatum, but responsibility demonstrates maturity. And words that you're going to see in these rights, words like respect, love, and connection are ideals, but responsibilities means I translate these values into actions. And our responsibilities require commitment. And I say to the people that I coach, the most important quality that we can demonstrate is consistency, because our children look at us from their wounded 5-year-old eyes, just like I remember what my father said to me that has driven my whole life. So in order to speak a new language, I have to do it consistently, because if I speak in a validating, emotionally intelligent language one time, it may not erase my 35 years of reactive emotions and undesirable patterns that I've decided would be more useful for me to replace. So I need to demonstrate my responsibilities even if and when others don't. Now, responsibilities do not excuse abuse, because if an interaction is unsafe, then my responsibility shifts to protecting myself and disengaging appropriately. And believe me, responsibilities take practice. And the biggest gift, somatic gift I can offer you is the gift of a pause. I don't know if many of you saw my picture, but I spent a week at Somatic Summer Camp in July, really getting to know our nervous system, our patterns. And I learned the most important gift we can give ourselves is the gift of a pause. And my favorite definition of responsibility is my ability to respond, not my ability to react, my ability to respond. So when I pause, and most of you know that I keep my stop sign very close to me. Sometimes I think I have to paste it on me. I stop, I take a breath, I open my arms, and I pause to consider, what do I want to achieve? What are the consequences of the words I choose? Will my words be separating and disconnecting, or will my words be constructive and connecting? And so, with all of that introduction, I'm going to present what I've come up with as rights that we'd like to have, but the responsibilities that we need to demonstrate in order to have these rights. Number one, the right to respect and dignity, because respectful conduct is a basic foundation. What is my responsibility to earn that right? I treat others with the same respect and dignity that I seek. I acknowledge others' feelings and experiences as valid and deserving of consideration. The right to acknowledge pain and grief. Estrangement brings deep emotional pain. My right to grieve is essential for accepting the absurd, don't you love that word now? The absurd reality as it is. My responsibility that goes with that right is I provide a compassionate, validating space for myself and others who need to express pain and grief. a right to emotional support. I need connection and supportive resources to navigate the challenges of estrangement. My responsibility, I offer empathy and non-judgmental support to others. 20 of us may have gatekeepers as their reason, but believe me, each of our situations are individual. We just cannot put them all in a category. We have to learn how to offer empathy and non-judgmental support. And I seek external support when the emotional complexities exceed my personal capacity. I have a right to personal growth. I love what Maya Angelou said. I am becoming. This isn't the end of my story. And if I have to choose what I'm going to carry inside this body, it is not anger and bitterness and darkness. I choose to carry love and light. So every experience, even estrangement, carries an opportunity to learn and to grow. My responsibility is learning new tools and skills that help me more wisely navigate my circumstances, with the understanding that each person's readiness for growth is unique. Just because I'm growing, I can't expect others to be where I am. I am on my own road, and everybody is on theirs. And as I like to say, I'm old enough to be in my reflective years, and they are not. So a right to forgiveness, because forgiveness is a pathway to emotional freedom and healing. And my responsibility is to engage in that process, beginning with myself, with compassion and patience. The right to establish and maintain boundaries. Healthy boundaries are essential for constructive interactions and clear expectations. As I say, I didn't even know what the word boundaries meant. And now we hear boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. And of course, we aren't told what we're accused of. So my responsibility is to learn about boundaries, so I am able to state my boundaries clearly and understand that I need to respect the boundaries of others so that our interactions can be constructive and clear. A right to maintain my individuality. I have the right to choose my values and beliefs. I have the right to look over the values and beliefs I have been living by and to let go of those that no longer serve me. I tell the story about this beautiful woman that I worked with in Alabama, the heart of Bible Belt country, who was raised with the Bible attitude and raised her kids with the Bible attitude. And one day her niece came over to her house and said, I need to tell you that I'm gay. And this beautiful woman looked at her and said, but I love you, so what? And this beautiful woman's daughter estranged her over that, because she was raised with the belief, the Bible belief, and she didn't want her children around her mother who discarded a belief that no longer served her. We know that some people believe that all men are created equal and treat them that way. And some people actually believe that all men are not created equal. So I honor and respect the individuality of others, allowing them to choose their own values and beliefs, even when they're different from mine. I have people that say, what are they doing? That's not the values that I brought them up with. You know, to me, a value is a jacket that you put on and you might discard around the next curve of your road, as I did many times along my twisting path. We have a right to hope, whether it involves reconciliation, finding peace, or discovering new sources of happiness. I have the right to hope. However, I pair hope with positive action and tend to my growth, healing, and well-being. Now, I have a right to honor changing roles. As my children become adults, I embrace a new phase of parenting with wisdom and discernment. The responsibility is I discern with wisdom what is welcome and what is not. And here I have to go into a little teaching because this was the most difficult thing for many people in my group to understand. And for me myself, okay? Roles are time-bound. Relationships are lifelong. In childhood, our role as mother or father is largely defined by responsibility and authority, teaching, correcting, guiding, and safety. In adulthood, those same actions can feel intrusive, controlling, and invalidating to adult children. So the relationship to continue our role must adapt. And this involves loss and grief. And developmental psychology even talks about this, a role exit, a transition when one role ends and another begins, maybe like retirement or divorce or empty nest. And for parents, this transition is emotionally complex because my child still exists, but our original role no longer fits. And this can create resentment. Believe me, these are texts that I sent my daughter. Why aren't you calling? Don't you know how much I've done for you? But then, as a mother, I had confusion. If I'm not a mother, who am I? So it's grieving the loss of an original role so you can have space to understand and embrace a new one. So actually, I have this chart that I made for you that I will send with the recording because it really is shifting roles from the parent of a child to the parent of an adult. Me as the parent of a child and the shift, me as the parent of an adult. Here, authority. I direct, instruct, and correct. Here, the shift. I am respecter of autonomy. I allow choices, even mistakes, even if I don't like what they're choosing at the moment. As the parent of a child, we were fixers. We got to step in and solve problems. Now, supporter. We only offer help when asked. You know, I'm trained in nonviolent communication. It's one of the most important things that I teach in my coaching. And solving problems is what's called fix-it language. And nobody likes to have fingers pointed at them. Do it this way. This is what you need to do. As parent of a child, we were the teacher. We provided answers and lessons. But as a shift, we're a witness. We listen, we validate, we reflect. As a parent of a child, we were a manager. We set rules, monitors, and we oversaw the situations. Now we can think of ourselves as a consultant. We're available for advice if invited. I told you responsibilities were hard. That's why I had a little bit more to learn this past year. As a parent of a child, we're a protector. We shield them from consequences. The shift, we can think of ourselves as walking alongside as they learn by their schedule on their path. I knew my identity as a parent of a child. I'm needed. I do these things. And our shift is to wonder and to demonstrate that we'll be valued because I am. It's presence over doing. So that's something new. The right to self-care. I prioritize and cultivate my mental, emotional, and physical health. So my responsibility is I have to model self-care mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. It has to be a daily priority. I say that I remember sitting on my couch and looking at the clock, and 4 hours would go by and I'd be thinking the same thought. A right to respectful communication, because constructive dialogue is the foundation of a healthy interaction and necessary for a pathway to repair. So for many of us, me, and I know some people that are attending tonight, it was like learning a foreign language, the language of saying first validation, and then using words like, is it possible? Would you consider? Would you be willing to? These are the words that I teach. And that goes to the right to validation. I have the right for my feelings, thoughts, and experiences to be acknowledged and worthy of consideration. I have the right to be seen, heard, and understood. But that means my responsibility is to first validate others, setting aside my opinions and making space for other perspectives. So I do a whole lesson on validation, because validation does not mean I agree with you. Validation is I am willing to wonder what you're saying and why you're saying it, and to validate your experience. You sound disappointed, you sound hurt, you sound resentful, you sound angry. You're seen, you're heard, and you're understood. The right to respectful disagreement, because we know that families can hold different viewpoints. And it's important to acknowledge those differences without dismissing, criticizing, or minimizing them. So my responsibility is to manage disagreements with wisdom and grace, remembering that I have to be the adult in the room. I have this picture of kids who are blindfolded with an elephant, and one kid is grabbing the tail and says it's a tail, and another grabs the tusk and says, no, it's a tusk, and another grabs the leg and says, no, it's a leg. But it's my job to see the elephant in the room. I have a right to live a fulfilling life. Estrangement does not cancel my right to joy, purpose, and fulfillment. I have a right to rediscover joy and purpose. And believe me, you might not know what it is. I had no idea what my joys were anymore, what made me happy, what I was interested in. But it's my right to rediscover those things. And my final two, I have a right to seek reconciliation. I have the right to wisely pursue repairing, rebuilding, and restoring relationships. My responsibility is to keep in mind what I want to accomplish and embody the qualities that actually invite safety, connection, and reconciliation. And I have a right to peaceful coexistence. Even if reconciliation is impossible at this moment, I have the right to a peaceful, respectful presence in shared spaces and family events. And my responsibility is to contribute to a calm and considerate atmosphere, allowing for comfort and dignity of everyone involved. Then I considered a parent and grandparent declaration that would say, we stand together as parents and grandparents who have been dismissed, discredited, disregarded, yet embrace compassion, dignity, and reconciliation. We support a parent and grandparent Bill of Rights, a guide that affirms our humanity, honors our grief, and seeks to restore the very foundation of a fractured world, strong families. So then I worked out what would be steps for creating this petition. So the first thing we would have to figure out is clarity. Who's it for? Policymakers, media, therapists, the general public, adult children? Is the purpose? I know I have some people on the webinar today for legal rights, for visitation, for social awareness, to reduce stigma, for educating, for professional standards for therapists, for public acknowledgement. So you see, a lot of thought has to go into this. However, the first part is deciding that you would like to accept this Bill of Rights, which means having the curriculum, the learning curriculum, to also accept the responsibilities. And then you need to choose a platform. And here are some that I found, as well as creating a branded standalone page. And then I was thinking of creative angles, like a visionary name, a declaration of dignity, or whatever. And it needs to be tied to a Bill of Rights that we say we support a parent, grandparent Bill of Rights and call on families, professionals, and society to acknowledge our rights and our responsibilities. And then we could make it interactive and humanize the issues and collect the voices of personal stories, testimonials, short videos explaining why this matters, and a call to action. How many people watched the Netflix documentary on The Biggest Loser? It was really outstanding. And it shows how a group of people are disregarded. And then there needs to be steps for mobilizing and spreading the word, whether it's on Facebook groups, newsletters, making hashtags, partner for credibility. It's a big job. Somehow they have spread the word in a viral cult-like way with their TikTok videos and social media posts. And other innovative ideas I thought about, like a digital wall of signatures, a Parents' Day of Dignity, a downloaded booklet. These are just ideas that I wanted to come up with that might support this, as well as write a draft petition text. Now, I have my writer, Lynette, on this webinar. So this is what I came up with: a parent and grandparent declaration of dignity. We, the undersigned, stand together as parents and grandparents who have been dismissed, discredited, and disregarded, yet embrace compassion, dignity, and responsibility. We support a parent and grandparent Bill of Rights, not as a weapon, but as a guide that affirms our humanity, honors our grief, strengthens our commitment to repair, rebuild, and restore family. We call on professionals and society to recognize that the encouragement to estrange must stop. That professionals must teach compassion, dialogue, and repair, and consider estrangement only as a last resort. We affirm a simple truth: parents and grandparents have been unfairly ostracized, silenced, and shamed. Add your name and join a growing call for compassion, fairness, and understanding, because passionately I say this to you: I believe that repairing a fractured world begins with restoring strong families. So I take a different avenue. My mission has always been to reclaim our self-respect and dignity first, and then to learn essential skills and tools that enable us to more wisely navigate life circumstances. So people kept saying to me, well, what do you do when you're coaching? What do you do? What is it? And so I have spent the last week really hammering out and designing what I can verbalize my mission is. Everybody that works with me knows I say, this is what I want to feel, think, or do. Stop. And what's the wisest thing for me to feel, think, say, or do? I live as my wisest self, empowered by prosilience, preparedness. It is intentionally designed from the inside out, starting with the identity of who I intentionally define and design who I choose to be, naming the principles I choose to guide me, repatterning, working with the nervous system and replacing and reorganizing patterns that no longer serve me, somatics, learning about my nervous system, able to notice emotions as signals, not commands, a set of practices to gather tools and skills to more wisely navigate my circumstances, and most important to me is how do I want to show up in the world. So I align my choices, actions, and energy with who I intentionally choose to be in relationship to myself and to others, despite the effing absurdity of life. Intentionally designed, consciously aligned. The wisest self-system coaching. And I know there's some people here that have done coaching with me, and wouldn't you think that that's a pretty good explanation? My next tools group, I've had a group going now for over 4 years. So the next tools group is going to be an introduction to this process. Instead of doing it separately with coaching, you're going to get to be introduced to some of these ideas with the group. I don't use anybody else's books or workbooks. I create all of my own. And you may notice that I always sign my signature, all possibilities. I reframe every negative word that pops into my mind. And so many of us are fraught with worry and uncertainty. And uncertainty is a very contracted feeling. And I have reframed that as all possibilities, because that's the same thing. And at this moment, in the world of all possibilities, some doors may be open and some doors may be closed. And instead of banging my head against a closed door, I'm going to see, what is it like? Let's make a deal. What's behind some of the other doors? And I love this quote. When you have exhausted all possibilities, remember this, you haven't. So I'm really appreciative of your attention. I want you to know that when you get the recording, as soon as I process it, I'll send you some of these documents, that chart. But I really love your feedback. I really listen to them. So this first one is keep holding on to the words of Vivian, take your power back. But I don't do that with anger. And I really do believe that's a difference. Okay? I have my own power, and it's not because of or despite someone else. I am empowered. The person that wrote Let Them Be on Their Journey or continued to be dragged, everybody's on their own schedule. And if I am going to accept the rights that I just spoke about, that also means the responsibility of understanding that others are on their schedule. I really love that statement about remorse means that I'm a good person, you know? And thank you, Marlene. I haven't seen you for a long time, and it's so good to see you.
Thank you, Barbara.
Yeah. And this world is absurd. I'm telling you, listen to the podcast, Philosophize This. I finished Camus, I'm on Kafka and Dostoevsky, and it's crazy. The stories that they're writing, the exile, and the guy lying in bed and wakes up to find two policemen in his room saying you're under arrest. I mean, it's incredible. Thank you very much, Alma. Thank you for the compliment, Jan. One thing that I learned at my somatics camp is that I cannot accept or receive compliments. I have this, it's a very difficult thing to receive a compliment. I just want you to feel my passion in what I'm trying to get across. However, at somatics camp, we were told that if somebody gives you a compliment, you must respond, thank you, it's true. And it was very uncomfortable for me to do that. And that's why responsibilities take practice. So Jan, thank you, it's true. Sandy Fisher, where are you? Now, I want you to know that we have roads in our brain, and our brain does not know the difference between repeating a memory or the actual experience, and that's why we get activated and and do the same things. Sandy and I were in sorority together in the 60s at Temple University. And I was in awe of Sandy. I couldn't even talk to her. She was just so cool, really. And this is how we reunited. It's good to see you. Thank you, Lynette. A couple minutes, and I'd love to hear your comments. However, I'd like them stated in the positive and about what was presented, okay? Because, yeah, that's my boundary. You, Marlene.
It was nice to see you too, Barbara. Unfortunately, I'm still here, but even if I wasn't, this has been something that I've really been thinking about so much in the last 6 months that it's like turning into a passion. I want to spread the word in all of our defenses because it's like, they have so many sites, like you said, and so many groups, and just bashing all of these parents. And we're just kind of like laying there and not showing our side. And I think showing it in a very responsible and, proper way, not, coming at them or whatever, but just exactly what you wrote in there, I think it'll get awareness. And I am prepared to, just put it out there everywhere because, I meet new people that are doing this and they're, I remember when I first started, you're so embarrassed and there's so much shame. And I don't have that, thank God, anymore. But I listen to these parents and it's like, somebody needs to stand up for us. And if it's us, then let's do it. I'm all for it.
And I would love to hear if you would be interested in assisting with this. At the same time, I really get saddened by those who would choose to stay in their suffering, who would choose to point fingers at their children just the same way their children are pointing fingers at them. And to me, I need a different strategy. And I really appreciate, truly, everybody that is here who decided to take the step to maybe hear a different kind of voice. And it's always a little frustrating to me because we had over 150 people that were interested in hearing anger and those kind of things, and a different number to hear something like this. Hi, Adria.
It's Adria. Hi. I just wanted to say, I feel like this is just so important, such important perspective and work. And how, for me, I'm finding the journey internally for my own heart to find this truth is what's most important. So that I'm coming from a place of clarity without being triggered. And that's so hard. And it's still my process in my journey is trying to really, really walk through my own inner trigger so that I can be clear. My voice can be clear. My thoughts can be clear. And thank you for taking all the time and the work that you've put into this. It's so clear how much you've done. And it's really helpful to have a path and to hear other people struggling with the same ideas. And I think we need this because without our own inner clarity, we can't, unless we can walk the walk, we can't talk the talk.
Thank you, Adria. We need to first embody those qualities. So to me, that Bill of Rights was my curriculum, and I'm offering to you as your curriculum because I am not certain that everybody would be able to demonstrate the responsibility. And so that's why in my foundations, the first thing that I talk about is our brain, why we do what we do, that we want to be heart connected. But when something happens, our nervous system, it takes over. To me, I've learned that it's all about the nervous system. And it's just been an incredible learning journey. And if you look on my website, it says, learning is the light in my tunnel. I learn something new every day. I am not going to stop at being angry and not offer a path. You know, I have to move on. So thank you all for attending. It was wonderful to see you. And when I send you the recording, please write to me, okay? Thank you, Wendy, Shari, Sue, Sandy, Jan, Melissa, Marlene, Alma, Adria, Wendy, Marianne, Karina, Henya, I'm so glad that you came. I always love when iPad shows up. Karina and Karas. Bye, everyone. Have a
Thank you,
wonderful
Barbara.
evening. Bye-bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.